Good afternoon, everyone. This is a public meeting of the School Board of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to this meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted at the entrance doors of the Education Service Center and on the district website. It was also sent to the West Bend Community Memorial Library, the Daily News, WRYU, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. I'm going to pause to ask Superintendent Wimmer to confirm that this meeting was properly posted.
Yes, it was.
Great, thank you. Please rise and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. We recognize a quorum of our board. All 7 members are present. We have 6 members physically present, and we have Dr. Chad Temez joining us virtually. Dr. Temez, thank you for joining us. Just to do a little bit of a sound check, can you hear us?
I can, thank you.
And we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for that. So since we have 1 board member attending virtually, we'll be taking roll call votes, and our clerk, Melanie, will throw a stapler at me if I forget to do that. So you'll take care of that for me? Great, thank you. Because sometimes I forget. With that, next on our agenda is the approval of this agenda, which was published in advance. I would move to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly. We have a motion and second to approve this agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Swigert votes yes. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Dr. Temez?
Yes.
Mr. Pickler?
Yes.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Ms. Ergot?
Yes.
Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. We have an approved agenda. We are pleased now to move to the recognition portion of our agenda. We're going to start with recognition of Skills USA State Competition Student Recognition. And I believe Mr. Mike Bentall, the Skills USA advisor, is going to come up and walk us through this. And come on up, folks. And we'd ask for all the participants here to come in front of the podium and face us. And that way,
Not the screen.
that's right. Yep.
Yep.
There
you go.
Well done. Yep. That way our folks at home can see everybody. And we'll ask the nice individual who helps us with televising these to make sure, give us a signal if we can't see everybody. But otherwise, I think we're in good shape. So come on in and help adjust our folks here so that we can see everybody. She can see what's actually showing up on the screen, so she will help us here. A little more? Okay, are we good? All right. Mr. Bentall, go ahead and take it away. Thank you.
Skills USA is a club at the high school where we strive to help students gain the assets necessary for America's skilled workforce. This year, the chapter received the Chapter Excellence Program. Individual students can compete in anything from CNC milling to photography, urban search and rescue to cosmetology. We had 2 teams and 2 individuals place first at the state level and qualify to go to nationals. This year, we have Emerson Pappendorf and Ryder Margulowski, who qualified in digital cinema production. Olivia Friedman, Ella Boyle, Rowan Bonlender, and Kristen Nelson will be participating in video news production. Alex Lukasevich placed first in photography. And lastly, Mr. Noah Minty will be attending nationals again for extemporaneous speaking. At the end of June, these 8 students will be competing in the Skills USA National Competition in Atlanta, Georgia, against the best in the skilled trades.
Thank you. Congratulations. I appreciate it very much. And Mr. Minty, I know you have exercised your extemporaneous speaking skills a number of times of the board, and I believe this may be the last time we're seeing you in an official school capacity. So we wish you the best in your upcoming endeavors, and remind us where you're going to be headed in fall.
Wabash College in Crawfordsville, Indiana, to double major in rhetoric and philosophy.
Fantastic, thank you. And are there other seniors in this group here? Anyone? Oh, gentlemen, where are you headed afterwards?
Milwaukee for computer science.
Milwaukee for film.
Milwaukee for mechanical engineering.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing the underclassmen here in the future as well. So congratulations, everyone. We really appreciate it, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Our next recognition is Scholastic Cadets Winter Guard Midwest Color Guard Circuit Championship, and I hope I have that correct. But Kathy Nino, I believe?
She's actually turning it over to her captains
Oh,
tonight.
fantastic. Captains, well, please, if you don't mind, if you come in front, you may need to do a couple of rows in front. And again, we would ask for guidance to make sure all these folks show up on the televised version here.
A lot of members, a lot of committed members. We're very proud.
That's all right. And we have some, we'll have a guide here. Very nice.
All right. Thank you for inviting us here today. We are honored to be recognized by the school board and the West Bend School District. We three seniors, myself, Cheyenne Griswold, Michael Sipe, and Isabella Motor, will be speaking on behalf of Miss Nino, who is at her granddaughter's promotion ceremony of 8th grade. So, to start, I will be speaking on behalf of our high school team. Our high school team this year had 17 amazing performers from both East and West high schools. Our show this year was titled Dream of the Archer, and our music was to the song Sullivan's Song and Dream of the Archer by Hall of Fame rock and roll band Heart. At championships, we were awarded Midwest Color Guard Circuit's bronze medalist in the Scholastic AA division. As a team, we received a trophy, and each performer received a bronze medal and a Midwest Color Guard Circuit finals patch. This is very impressive since the 8 other teams we went up against were able to practice much more often and had a higher budget than us. Although we did not receive gold, in my heart we did. Everyone on this team has improved so much this season, and that's all I need to make myself happy. Out of all my 8 years on this team, I've never been so proud of a group of individuals before. I'd also like to say thank you to our board members and the district for making us a club sport this year. Because of this, each and every single individual was able to earn their letter, their varsity letter. Now we are able to wear it with pride and show our dedication to this lovely sport of the arts to our community. With that being said, I'd like to pass the mic over to Michael.
In addition to our lovely high school team, we have 2 younger teams from both Silverbrook Intermediate and Badger Middle Schools, having 8 and 14 hardworking individuals respectively. These amazingly dedicated and talented performers will never cease to dazzle the circuit. Our Silverbrook team has placed first in every competition this year and took home the title of Grand Championships with their highway driving themed show called Coast to Coast. Our Badger team blew the competition away with their show Come to the Sea, earning second at the Chicago Regionals and taking the title of Grand Champions at Regional Championships, which they also got gold medals for. And I lost my spot. I'm so sorry. Our teams put in dozens of hours of hard work into their shows each and every year, and it pays off manyfold, especially considering that both of these teams compete against much older competitors. Silverbrook is in the same division as middle schoolers, and Badger faces almost exclusively high schools in their division. We are endlessly proud of our girls and all they've accomplished, and we hope to see them continue to thrive for years to come. Thank you.
Hi, I will be speaking on behalf of our minis team. They are a team of 10 girls, ages 5 to 13. This year, their show was titled Broadway Favorites, which is a combination of West Side Story, Annie, Newsies, Six the Musical, and Wicked. They performed at our Rolling Meadows competition as an exhibition, and all of their hard work and dedication earned them a very, very loud standing ovation. In addition, our guards participate in local parades, Regnerfest, Washington County Fair, Enchantment in the Park, American Heart Association donations from bake sales, and food pantry donations collected at our annual showcase. We are happy to report that West Bend is extremely well respected in the guard community, and this is thanks to our hardworking members and their supportive families and all of our volunteer staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys.
Thank you for letting us celebrate your accomplishments with you, and thank you for representing the district so well. We appreciate you coming tonight. All right. We have a third recognition, and that is Wisconsin School Music Association State Exemplary Performance Awards. I believe I have Corey Murphy here for this. All right. Same rules apply. Come right in front of the podium there so the folks at home can get a great look at you. Fantastic. That is perfect. Thank you.
All right. Hello. The Wisconsin School Music Association is best known for hosting annual solo and ensemble festivals in which students across the state prepare a piece of music independently to be performed for a rating in front of an accredited judge. Students can select a piece from 3 varying difficulty classes, A, B, and C. Students who score high enough in the most difficult category, Class A, become eligible to perform at the state level. This year, our state event was hosted by Carroll University. West Bend Music was well represented with 62 qualifying events at state. The exemplary performance recognition expands recognition of outstanding student performers at the state level. State festival adjudicators identify exceptional performances at each of the state festival campuses through a 2-step process, nomination and final selection. Step 1, nomination. Throughout the day, adjudicators have an opportunity to nominate students whose performance was truly exceptional beyond what is typically expected for this age group. Step 2, final selection. At the end of the day, each adjudicator selects the most exceptional performances to receive the Exemplary Performance Award from among those nominated. We are proud to announce that 3 West Bend High School events were nominated and selected for the prestigious Exemplary Performance Award this year. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Becker to say who they are.
Representing the West Bend High School Jazz Ensemble are seniors Izzy Blair, Connor Trahand, and Michelle Shainfeld. Representing Lily Bean's clarinet solo is, wait for it, Lily Bean. And not here tonight, as many members have just recently departed for Spain on the orchestra trip, are the SSA Voice Quartet members. That's 2 sopranos and 2 altos. Chloe Bauer, Shay Fighter, Sophia Brown, and Tatiana Patrick.
Congratulations. Now, I know a number of folks, you were introduced to seniors. Raise your hand again if you're seniors. Okay. They're all seniors.
I said it feels mean we graduate them on Sunday and then make them come in.
I was going to say, this is really, really impressive. Well, a number of us handed out diplomas, and I recognize some of the faces here. So why don't we start on this side? What are your plans after school?
I am going to Concordia University for a double major of social work and clarinet music performance.
Great, fantastic,
I'm going to Milwaukee School of Engineering for electrical engineering.
fantastic.
UW Green Bay for music education.
I'm going into the Marines as an L311 infantryman.
Want to remember your the colors that you wore at graduation. So very impressive, all of you. Congratulations on this accomplishment, and I'm sure many, many more to come. We really appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to everyone here who came tonight to for these recognitions. I think that's the last of our recognitions tonight. So this is a public meeting of the school district. We always welcome individuals to stay, but we also understand that some people have other things to do at this point, especially on a nice summer day. So if anyone cares to leave at this point, we are not offended, but otherwise we'll just pause for a second, but then we'll continue on with our business. Thank you again. As the folks in the crowd some of them are exiting, we'll go on to public participation, because I don't have any public participation comment cards, and I'm just double checking, I don't see any in the audience, so we'll move then on to the consent agenda. On our consent agenda, we have minutes of the May 27, 2025 regular board meeting and executive session, 2 contracts, 2 resignations, 1 retirement, course name update of advanced algebra to algebra 2, Findorf AIA contract amendment, and disbursements posted to June 6, 2025. I'll pause first. Are there any questions on any of the items on the consent agenda tonight? Well, hearing none, I would move to approve this consent agenda. Is there a second? Second. We got that one to Melanie. Thank you. We have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
Dr. Temez?
Yes.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Swigert votes yes. Ms. Ergott?
Yes.
And Mr. Pickler?
Yes.
Thank you. That vote is unanimous, and our consent agenda is approved. We'll move then on to reports. We start with our student assessment report, and I see Tina Van Roo, our district assessment coordinator, is coming to the podium. Thank you.
All right, good evening. I last saw you in winter when we presented some updates on our local assessment data. So tonight I'm here to kind of wrap up the school year with how our students did with different assessments they take. This year, we know that we did a little bit extra assessing, especially in the lanes of literacy, due to the new Act 20 law that came through for our earliest learners in elementary school. You've seen this graphic before, but we'll be touching on many of the assessments on here, how our students did all year long, all the way to their final end-of-year performance. First up is our USNS kindergarten math. If you recall, we had a hole in our assessment system for kindergarten math, and this year we chose to pilot it with this USNS assessment, which was free and administered by our math interventionists, so it didn't put any extra weight on the classroom teachers. What we found over time is that the USNS, which assesses 3 different skills, served better as a diagnostic than a screener. Typically, what we see with our screeners, such as STAR, is information across all the different standards that come throughout the grade level. This USNS screener, with the free version, only assessed a few different skills, which does help us determine which students we need to provide extra supports to. So while we saw success based off of this pilot, our recommendation is to keep this assessment, but move it from a screener to a diagnostic for the future school year. Any questions with that proposed transition?
So we talk about a diagnostic tool. I know that sometimes we'll test, like it seems here, at various times of the year so that we can develop progress. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about with a diagnostic tool. Is that correct?
Yeah, so typically for screening, we'll do 3 benchmarks per year, a fall, a winter, and a spring. And then if students fall within a certain range where we need to figure out more about their performance, that's when we move on to the diagnostics. So diagnostics will follow screening 3 times a year as well.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Pickler?
Just curious, with the rise and then drop in the scores, are those normal changes, outliers at all?
For USNS, I can't speak to it because this is our only year doing it, but when we get into some of our STAR data, you will see a similar trend where we have some spikes in winter and declines in spring. It's semi-typical for our data, but it is not typical for national. So you'll see more of that as we get into the slides. Next is our first grade for AIMSweb Plus, which was the screener selected by DPI to meet the requirements of the Act 20 early literacy law. 4K students did participate in it, and in a full year, they will take this screener in fall and in spring. This year, since the screener wasn't ready in fall, the first administration that our 4K students had was spring. They were required to take 2 different tests, letter, word, sound fluency, which times how many letters they know in a minute, and then initial sounds, how many sounds they know in a minute. Unfortunately, only one of those tests, letter, word, sound fluency, has national norms, so we can only provide that normed data for that one area. So in spring, our 4K students, 60% of our students met the benchmark for letter, word, sound fluency. A good thing about that is when they move on to kindergarten, one of the tests kindergarteners take is also letter, word, sound fluency, so it brings nice alignment and historical data for the kindergarten teachers as the students move up in our system. Part of the requirement for screening under Act 20 is to find students that might be deemed at risk if they have a score below a certain range. Fortunately for 4K, we will not be making at-risk identifications. We save that for our true elementary students. The AIMSweb Plus sales rep did share that all assessments should be normed next year. With the Wisconsin clientele and their growing national clientele, they are going to be using this year's data to set new norms, and those new norms are going to be the first time they've normed post-COVID. So we should expect all sub-tests assessed to come with reportable data next year.
Is there a specific benchmark or goal for this? Because when I look at it, I think it's percentage at or above the average. So you would think, and I am not a statistician, that on average, 50% will be at or above the average. So you look at it and say, well, 60% are at or above the average. So in some cases, that looks, we'd obviously love that number to be as high as possible.
Yes.
But under that, it looks like, well, maybe that's okay. I'm just curious, and maybe you'll address this later in the.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I was going to have it on my next one, but we'll
Then
talk
we go-
now. But that's totally good.
You proceed.
What we do in West Bend is we do set that expectation and benchmark at the 50th. However, under the law, it requires them to be at average or above once they hit the 25th percentile or above. So it's not as rigorous as what we set internally for our benchmarking.
Interesting. Okay.
So this truly is a representation of what the law requires. All right, in grades K through 3, we also gave the Ames Web Plus assessment. In a full administration year, they will take the assessment fall, winter, and spring. Pictured in this graphic is a double-sided bar, one for each grade level, representing their winter to spring results. While the kindergarten through 3 students take a variety of tests, what's displayed here are the components that are directly tied to the at-risk requirements per the law. So the green bars for kindergarten are displaying a composite score, which takes 2 assessments, letter names and letter sounds, and merges that into one score. So we had between 66 to 68% of our students in winter to spring demonstrating that at or above average, so 25th percentile or above. The grade 1, 2, and 3, as pictured in the pink, are all assessed for at-risk status on one component called the oral reading fluency, which will be referenced often as the ORF. That measures how quickly and accurately a student can read in 1 minute, given 2 different passages. All of the space above the bars, which you could kind of picture the white area between the top of the bars and the 100, would be all the students that are considered at risk. So they fell in these areas below the 25th percentile. Per the law, we're required to then create a personalized reading plan for them to help them close that gap or practice a certain skill with the expectation and hope that in the duration of the law, which will be the 27-28 school year, our kids are reading proficiently in 3rd grade. That kindergarten group, pictured in green, is going to be our first true cohort. They are our first group of kiddos who have the new curriculum, the new resource, the new assessment. So over the next few years, we'll be tracking that cohort specifically to see how they do from 1st to 2nd to 3rd. And once they are 3rd graders, they'll be our first true measure of success for the science of reading-based law. STAR. We've been presenting STAR to you guys since the 2018-19 school year. This has been our universal screener from K-8, and we have lots of historical data. Pictured here again is 2 or 3 columns for each grade level, displaying how they performed from fall to winter and also spring if applicable. And in K through 3, you won't see a spring bar because they did Ames Web Plus instead this year. There is a target line drawn on this slide as well, just to reiterate that the hope is that 80% of our students reach benchmark. And to Mr. Zweigart's point, the benchmark we set internally for STAR is that 50th percentile. We want them at or above average per that measure. As pictured in the 5 different grades that have a fall, winter, and spring column, 4 out of our 5 grades did increase the percentage of students who were meeting benchmark from fall to spring. You will see, especially in the 6th grade column, another winter peak, but we'll see how that kind of comes once we get our state data in, if that peak has meaning or not. I do want to highlight a couple of the grades. Jackson Elementary 4th grade and Fair Park Elementary 4th grade, which are kind of collected in that 4th grade column, both had students reaching benchmark in the 70s. So the gap between them and that 80% target line is closing, and they just had terrific performance this year. STAR is a predictor of Wisconsin Forward, which is our big state assessment for students in grades 3 through 8. If we take grade 3 through 8 performance and STAR and kind of mush it together, we have approximately 67% of our students expected to meet benchmark, which is about the same as our Forward performance last year.
So you said you were going to wait for state data to determine that grade 6 to see if it was, abnormal. I guess I remember seeing this close to the same presentation last year, and I feel like there's always kind of like a slump of grades 6 and 7. Is that just always going to be the case developmentally? Maybe those kids just don't want to put forth the most effort. Is that the right way? Or is it truly a learning, hump that you can overcome? That's what I'm getting at.
We often, since STAR is a national test and Wisconsin Forward is just the state, we often compare how we do on the Forward to see if each grade level is within range of state performance or not. All middle schoolers, you could make the argument, might not give the best oomph. They've been, taking the test for 7 years now, and just developmentally, it might not be a full give. And that would be represented in the norms that we're measuring against, whether it's state or nationally. We have had different cohorts of kids that come through that trend upwards. We have some that plateau, and we have some that decline. So our data has been really specific to the group of students as they move through the system versus every year 7th grade is low or 6th grade is high. It's really been very dependent on the cohort of kids as they move through. Next up is STAR Math. STAR Math is administered in grades 1 through 8, again, since the 2018-19 school year. All 3 assessment windows were given for all the grades. So we're happy to report that 6 out of the 8 grades did increase the amount of students that were meeting benchmark from their fall screening to their spring screening. A few highlights here, again, is Jackson 4th grade and Silverbrook 6th grade. Both of them had results in the 70s, again, with a very small gap of hitting that target of hitting 80% of the kids meeting benchmark. So 2 big celebrations there as well. Wisconsin Forward also measures math assessment in grades 3 through 8. So again, if we merge that data together for STAR to be predictive of Forward, we're expecting approximately 68% of our kiddos to be meeting benchmark, which is a slight decrease from last year. So what's next? I know I heard questions about the state data already, but before we get to that, we're going to look at that big assessment calendar and clean it up and make sure that everybody has a lot of clarity on what assessment we're giving and when next year, as well as recommendations for change around that kindergarten math hole. We'll be presenting that assessment calendar that we're proposing to our next curriculum committee meeting. And then we'll be diving right into our summer leadership. We've been having summer leadership meetings for quite a while where we do big data digs. We have already received internally our state assessment data. You guys just don't get to see it until like October. So we're gonna spend all summer, like we do each year, digging in on grade reporting, school-based reporting, and we even have the opportunity on some of the assessments to dig into subcategories and standards on that. So that work is going to be launched next Wednesday, and it will be continued through August. All of that work is going to feed into each building's school improvement plans, which will guide their work and focus for the upcoming school year. As I got ahead of myself, you guys will get a report in October once DPI releases the embargo, and we will share the assessment results from this school year in comparison with some comparable data from other districts. Soon after that, which typically is November, all of those assessment results, among other data, are mapped into our school and district accountability report cards, where we are issued our star ratings. So we'll be reporting to you on the results of that in November. Any questions?
We may have talked about this at a prior meeting. With Act 20 and some of these changes, when we look at the upcoming assessment results, the accountability report card, are they incorporating that new methodology?
They will not. The accountability report cards are only going to be using the state assessments, such as Wisconsin Forward, the Pre-ACT Secure, the ACT, and the alternate assessment, dynamic learning maps, or the DLM. So they will not use any screening data in the report cards. We use it internally, but they will not.
That answers my question quite directly. Board members, other questions, comments, thoughts? All right, well, it sounds like we'll see you then definitely in the future with other assessment results and performance scorecards.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. We move to our next report, which is the Student Behavior Report. And we'll give Emily Malstrand, our Director of Student Services, a moment to approach the podium with her materials.
All right. Okay, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you this evening about our student engagement and behavior. Like Tina, I was here earlier in the year giving you a mid-year update on our progress towards our goals. And I'd like to just start out by recapping the goals that we had set for ourselves at it would have been last summer. As you recall, one of our consistent goals is that 85% or more of our students have 0 to 1 major referral. And you probably recall that there's minor behaviors and there's major behaviors. Minor behaviors are those that are managed in the classroom by teachers, and major behaviors require administrative intervention. So our goal is that we're correcting behavior in the classroom level and it's not rising to the level of requiring administrative intervention. And then the other part of that long-term goal was that we want 95% of our students to have 5 or less. We want to be intervening sooner when major behaviors are occurring so that we can change the trajectory and get kids back on track. And then we also set a short-term goal that by the end of this year, with a particular focus on our 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, that we had 92% of those students falling within the 0 to 1 range in the Be Respectful pillar of the WBSD way. We have 3 kind of primary supporting features that we consistently consider as we're doing our work. And I'm extremely proud of the work that our teachers and our administrators did this year across these 3 buckets. Clear expectations that are highly reinforced within the classroom and the school setting. We're constantly recalibrating to make sure that teachers know what to do, kids know what to do, and administrators know what to do, and that we're communicating that clearly. We're working to be data-driven, so we're looking at student data, being responsive to student data, both at the individual level, at the group level, site level, district level, and we consistently calibrate using our disciplinary rubrics. We've had those in place now we'll be going into our 3rd year of using those rubrics, and it has made a tremendous change in the consistency in which our administrators are evaluating disciplinary situations and responding to it. So I'm really happy to say that we met both parts of that goal. 85% of our students or more in every single building had 0 to 1 major referrals across the board, and 95% of our students had 5 or less. And that was consistent across all sites, including our 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, which is where we had that very specific focus. You will recall that we Last summer, I talked a lot about the fact that we wanted to really target in the areas of be respectful and be safe, with the intention that that really impacts our school culture. We want our schools to be safe. We want kids to be responding in a way that is respectful, following directions. All of those things are really impactful in the classroom. And the second goal that we had set targeted our 7th through 10th grade, and we had indicated that we wanted 92% or more of kids within those grade ranges to demonstrate consistent application of those expectations, and we met that goal. 92.53% of kids in those age ranges demonstrated respectful behavior with a high level of consistency. And I included the other sites because I also wanted to illustrate the fact that that was consistent across all of our sites meeting that goal. Oops, sorry. Okay, this was not directly attached to one of our goals, but I think it's really important that I continue to bring forward to you the data that reflects the work that we're doing around school safety. The WBSD pillar for Be Safe includes all of the different behavioral codes listed, and you will see that across the board, the majority of our students meet those expectations. I wanted to highlight the fact that the high school Badger and Silverbrook had 0% of their kids tripping into that high level of repeated behavior, and that really is a testament of the fact that they are watching data, responding to data, and we're not allowing some of those unsafe behaviors to be repetitive. We're intervening sooner, we're putting intervention plans in place, and at times we're making disciplinary decisions that result in different pathways for students in order to keep buildings safe. I had a couple of just end of year highlights that I wanted to share with you. I think it's really important that we continue to celebrate the fact that every single day we welcome thousands of kids into our school buildings, and every single day the majority of kids do what they need to do in terms of meeting the expectations that we place in front of them. If you look on here, our personal tech, almost 92% of our students had 0 to 1 personal tech violation that was considered major. Almost 100% of our kids had 0 instances of fighting, 99% plus in terms of students not making any kind of or engaging in threatening behavior. 96% of our kids are following directions consistently. So you can see that I think it's just really important to put those numbers out in front of you and our community to remember our teachers are doing a great job of supporting students and meeting those expectations, and when the expectations are clear, when kids know what the responses to behavior are, kids rise to meet that expectation. So I'm really proud of our kids this year. Oops. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm having trouble navigating that. I want to press the button and I have to scroll. So I mentioned this at the beginning, but we have a couple of key strategies. These are strategies that will continue into next year. We are going to continuously reevaluate to ensure our expectations are clear. Our WBSD district team meets tomorrow. They'll be unpacking all of our data already tomorrow and thinking about what do we need to do better? What can we make clearer? How can we support teachers? They'll come out of tomorrow's work with a whole new set of opportunities for the upcoming school year. We'll continue to be data-driven. On Thursday of this week, I have lots of time with our district leaders, and we will be reviewing our disciplinary rubrics. I'm proud to say we're moving into our 3rd year of implementation, and every single year we've made improvements based upon what we've learned as we're implementing them to ensure that it's clear, that it's fair, that we're not stretching too far, but we're stretching far enough. So that work will happen on Thursday. We continue to focus on family engagement. And then the next two, I'm going to pull forward into the next slide. We're going to target 2 areas more closely in the upcoming year. We are going to continue to focus on being respectful and following directions, but we're actually going to start to dig a little bit deeper and not just think about the big behaviors that require administrative intervention, but what can we do even earlier to make sure that our classroom environments are less likely to have some of that lower level behavior that starts to trickle up. And then we are focusing heavily on our school-based mental health framework. We are going to really focus on ensuring that we have the supports and interventions available to students around substance use prevention. And we'll be doing a lot of work with our counseling team just to continue to expand and ensure that kids and families have access to mental health supports as they need them. So with that, I don't have anything else to share with you, but I'm very open to questions. And again, just really proud of the work again that our administrators and our teachers and our kids are doing. I'm starting to really see some of the fruits of the labor over the past couple of years, and we're excited to kind of dig in even a little deeper.
Thank you for the report. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. Board members, what questions do we have? Obviously, say there's always been steady and good progress, and I think this is a very, very favorable report. And you really talked about it at the tail end. I mean, if there was one thing that we could focus on to continue to move the needle, and I know you talked about several, but if you could name one, what do you think would be the best kind of next course of action?
So I think we're pretty calibrated around those big behaviors. I think we're actually at the point, and I'm pretty excited to say this, where I think it's time to dig a little bit deeper. We haven't been talking a lot about minor behaviors, and that's because kids make mistakes and we correct them and they grow, right? Like, it doesn't matter what school you are in, what house you're in, where you're in the community. Kids demonstrate behaviors as they're learning. But I think we have some room to grow there, and I think we can dig in and really look at, how can we make a classroom environment feel even better in terms of a learning environment? And then I will say personally that focus on the comprehensive mental health framework. We want to make sure kids have what they need. And I think we have expanded options for kids and families. Our mental health navigator position makes a huge difference in terms of building those connections, but I always think there's room to deepen that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions, thoughts? Mr. Pickler.
So I sense that this data has been improving over the years, just based on the rubric and things you talked about. As I'm looking at the 6th slide, the be respectful by the different schools, the score at Badger is a little bit lower. Is that just the nature of the age of those kids? Is it that the cohort, a little bit of both?
Certainly a little bit of both. And we welcomed a new leader into that building. So whenever you welcome a new leader into the building, there's this opportunity to kind of re-norm and rethink about processes. And I think Badger has been really digging into that work in terms of setting expectations. I think we're going to, and there was improvement at Badger in both the Be Respectful and their overall majors. And yeah, middle school, there's middle school kids are asserting their independence a bit. So I think across the nation, you're going to see a bit more challenge behaviorally at those levels. But I'm proud to say we're moving in the right direction. I'm seeing the change, and it's showing in our data.
It is an interesting dichotomy, right? Because if we were to ask the administration to enforce a stricter conduct, you would expect to see more violations in theory, right? I mean, so sometimes when there's a score like that, it also means that there's enforcement.
That is a very good observation, and that we saw that when we started really enforcing the personal tech violations, where we had a real spike in the number of referrals, and now we're starting to see that go down. So that's a good observation as well. And even with that, and I can't give you the exact numbers quickly, but there was about a 3% change at Badger in terms of number of kids falling into that 0 to 1. So we are starting to see that shift. But you bring up a really good point.
Well, and I think Mr. Pickler's point is good too. We've seen that historically with the age group, the Badger age group, I'll say. But so nonetheless, we appreciate the reporting and the transparency around it. I think that's been very helpful and very good. I mean, we sometimes think in the business world you get what you measure, right? And so we appreciate the emphasis that this has had for the administration.
Good, yeah, and I appreciate it as well. I think it's important for you and for our community to see how our kids are performing in terms of meeting those expectations.
Other questions? Thank you for your report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next report is construction report. So we're going to invite Mr. Harder forward. Give him a chance to set up.
Okay.
All right, good evening, board members. So it's been 2 weeks since we had our partners Findorf and EUA here on site talking about the work at Green Tree, McLean, the design work that's happening at Jackson. And so on our board meetings regularly, you will see a construction report that'll be given by myself, or I might be on vacation 1 or 2 times. Superintendent Wimmer may take over for me. Maybe Emily will get to talk her into it. We shall see. So it is very exciting since the last 2 weeks. Working with Findorf, who is our construction manager at risk, and what that means is they are a construction manager, and then they hold all of the contracts with the subcontractors. And so working with them, we have completed bidding for all of our different trade packages that exist at the Green Tree and McLean facilities. And since we have completed that work, the way that works is it is a public bid. So as a reminder that anybody who may be listening or see this, it is posted on our websites for any contractor who is interested in bidding. All of the documents are then made available online. And then bid due dates are set. If Findorf is going to bid on the project as a construction firm also, the district requires that all bids are sent to me as the receiver instead of going to Findorf. And we do that and we hold them till after bid opening time. So it's an exciting day for me, maybe not for the rest of the team who sits on the phone call when we open up multiple bids and see what we get back. But we hold them to make sure that we're true to that process. From there, a team analyzes all the bids and makes a recommendation for the selection of the subcontractor. And so when we look at all of the different trades, there are probably 26 different trade packages that exist at Green Tree and McLean. We will have 17 different contractors who will be on site over the next 5 months, supporting a wide variety of work of everything from carpentry and concrete to windows and doors and security systems and fire alarms and everything else, all the way down to the final cleaning of the building to turn it over to our staff as we get back in fall. And we're really, really excited about that. Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. is kickoff day. If anybody wants to get up bright and early and see what the day is like, it literally is move-in day, and it is abatement day for items like asbestos and lead and other things that have to be taken out of the building to start. And by the end of the week, our partners in Findorf and a few other trade partners will start demolition both at Green Tree and McLean. Not as exciting if you just drive past the building. You might see some dumpsters and trailers. A lot of our work is done inside. Probably the most visible thing that you will see happening at Green Tree and McLean will be the windows and door work. That'll start probably later July, early August at that point in time. But I do have to give a shout out to the staff at Green Tree and McLean, the aides, the teachers, the office staff, some of the students who even kicked in delivering carts and helping move some stuff around. The 2 principals, Mr. Powitz and Mr. Kasich, over the last 2 weeks, we've been inundated in their building and helping them, but also them helping us get ready for this work. And it takes a wide variety of people to make that happen, and they've been phenomenal partners in this whole process. And then a huge shout out to the 20 or so technology and facility staff who thought they'd spend Saturday morning with us. Some of them started as bright as early as 4:35 a.m. And spent till noon, and really we are making sure that that building is ready to be turned over. We are taking every piece of equipment, whiteboard, corkboard, security stuff, anything that we are going to reuse that we want to make sure is taken care of, we take that out as part of our owner's rep piece at that point in time. And then we will be moving forward with that process over the next 2 weeks of starting those demolition pieces and go from there. And so that's kind of the update of where we're at for Green Tree McLean. Next time around, I hope to have some photos. Maybe, myself, Superintendent Wimmer, get a sledgehammer out, knock some walls down. Derek from our partner team at Findorf wanted to know where the sledgehammer was in my tiny little Subaru today if I had one of those. So we're really looking forward to kick this off and start that process and then share with the community what that looks like. So I will entertain any questions about the process, all those different pieces, and what we're starting with in the next 2 weeks.
Great. Any questions?
Just got a quick one. You talked about vetting once you have all the bids in, right, to make an ultimate recommendation. Is it like for a municipality where we have to choose the lowest qualified bidder, or do you guys have more discretion?
No, so we will look at lowest quality bidder, but we want to make sure they meet the requirements that are in there. So most people, it's not a simple bid, I'm going to buy 50 of these monitors. What the Findorf team does with some support from myself and my team is really analyzing that the 3 vendors who bid or the 5 vendors who bid on this are contractors. It is like scope of work, so that in yours, Mr. Jenkins, you did everything and I didn't, and it looks like my bid is lower. So they take that into account and get to that pricing. Sometimes it has to do with product availability. Obviously, sometimes there are vendors, and we have not run into this, or contractors that, we would have concerns about doing the scope of work. We have not had that here. Our partners at Findorf, with the timeline, all those things that we've talked about prior, are really happy with the number of bids that we've received, the pricing that we are receiving. We are on budget, all those different pieces, but we will look to the person who can give us our best return on investment at that time.
Great.
So I would imagine most of the project is indoors. There's the window work, which is right on the edge. So I'm just thinking from a weather dependency perspective, there must be a great bulk of work they're able to do regardless of weather, and some that's going to be somewhat dependent on the weather.
Yep.
You talk a little bit about
you
kind
are
of that
correct.
split.
So our biggest worry is always when we take the windows out or the doors out and put back in. We want to keep that shell completely what that looks like. Because there is some asbestos involved in the caulking and the insulation around the windows, those will be taken out by our abatement company. That will be paired with the window company coming in to put those things in. And so it is Findorf's responsibility, Kyle and Derek, who are on site from their team, to make sure that that building is secure. So there will be times where there are boarded up, windows that are built in temporary or doors at that point in time, but they have to leave that job site secure every single day. We actually did a walkthrough about what that means today in terms of those different pieces. But, a lot of that work is done inside. A little bit of PA, a little bit of fire alarm system stuff outside. There's a generator piece, but a lot of the work that we can do is not weather dependent, which is great at that point to get us going and moving along.
Tim, just one thing to general public, and I know that they'll be communicating, we're actually moving the principals, secretaries over
Yes.
here. Those sites are completely closed. So if a family's looking to register, they would normally come over here anyway to the registrar. Sometimes maybe they might stop at their local school, but all their operations are coming over here to us for the summer.
Yep, they actually will be moving in across the hallway tomorrow morning, so that is one of our other tasks. So, but again, I can't thank enough the staff at both buildings who have made the last 2 weeks of the end of the school year is hectic enough. A little bit of extra stress and added hecticness, we greatly appreciate it. So
I'm glad you brought that up because I know that's a large effort, and so appreciate everyone's assistance with that. Board members, other questions? Thank you for your report. Appreciate it. Look forward
Thank
to
you.
more in the future. Our next report is the superintendent's report. Superintendent Wimmer.
So our last couple of weeks, as you can imagine, are filled with awards, events, end-of-year performances, just a couple key kind of graduation promotion ceremonies that were held recently. So I was happy to attend the graduation for Project Search, along with school board member Mr. Pickler. It's a wonderful program offered through a partnership with the West Bend School District, the Threshold, and the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. And West Bend Insurance also has been an integral part of the success of Project Search for all of Washington County. So Project Search helps young adults with disabilities gain life skills and marketable jobs. It's a one-year transition program that allows our young adults to do both classroom work and unpaid internships and to explore different career paths. So of the 8 students who completed the program this year, 3 from West Bend, and that was Ethan Bauman, Timothy Gross-Cruz, and Grace Totsky. So congratulations to those Project Search graduates. In addition, we had a new promotion at Badger. So the Badger 8th grade promotion was June 5th. So they've been celebrating their promotion and kind of end of those middle school years, where they love taking the tests and following all the rules. they've done generally 2 ceremonies. They divide them out where they're going to go in the future because of parking, accommodations, et cetera. So this year, the principal worked with families, kind of projected going up to the high school for a combined program, so they all could be together. It was held at the Fields House, and it was a wonderful first event. A couple little takeaways for improvements, kind of at the door, maybe easing lines in, that kind of thing. But really just some little logistical things that you learn after the first time. So it was very well received and a great event. And then Sunday marked the graduations, East and West graduation ceremonies. My compliments to the student graduation committees who organized them. I kind of stand at the end and thank our community for coming, parents, grandparents, et cetera. And I'm always met with a ton of compliments. And I think our graduation ceremonies are amazing because kids run them. Kids are their guest speakers. We largely just kick it off and end it. But they really run it. Their musical performances, their speeches, both the band and the orchestra did a great job as well. So just congratulations to those graduating seniors, and just thank you to all of them for the program. Also, just a thank you to Mrs. Ergott, Mrs. Lang, Dr. Temez, and Mr. Swigert for participating. We're handing out diplomas on stage, fast and furious. They're excited to get graduated, but fantastic events. And the rain held out perfectly. It kind of hit the middle between the two, so no one got soaked coming in or leaving. So we're thankful for that. And then we wanted to recognize a teacher. The Lieutenant Ray Dickup Post 36 American Legion recognized our Silverbrook 5th grade teacher, Mackenzie Miller, as the 24-25 American Legion Educator of the Year. So Mackenzie's also the head coach of the West Dance team. She's also a West Bend District alum, having attended Jackson, Badger, and West. So congratulations to Mackenzie on that well-deserved honor. And even though we keep talking about end-of-year things, I just want to remind everyone that summer school's around the corner and starts next week. Those sites are the high schools, Decorah and Silverbrook, so make sure you reach out. You should have received information regarding our summer programs. If you haven't, reach out. We can help you get connected. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Questions for Superintendent Wimmer?
No questions, but I just want to add on that the Badger staff did phenomenal, and it was such a great promotion to do the combined. I loved being able to see everyone, and for the first time, if you weren't behind the scenes, you did not know those flaws happened. So it was wonderful.
Not flaws, just little things.
Yep. Yep. You did not see them from the outside.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. All right. Thank you, Superintendent Wimmer, for your report. We are going to move to our discussion items. We have 4 discussion items, and the first 3 have to do with policies. And we've talked about these before. So Superintendent Wimmer, I'll turn it over to you for the first one, which is Policy 119, High School Configuration Review Process, second reading.
Yep, this just serves as a formal second reading for removal of this policy. Recall that we are seeking some input from our staff, students, and faculty right now to help us frame a board-approved process in lieu of policy as we explore that configuration question. I've had almost 1,000 respondents to an initial ask just for helping us to frame that process. Again, we've talked about surveying our wider community as part of that process, so that will come, but I anticipate I'll start mocking up that what that looks like. I'll share an update at our next board meeting, and then really solidifying that in the month of July as we sunset this policy and bring forward a board-approved process in lieu of that.
I think the timing of that will be good. So this would come up then for action, potentially, on the next agenda for removal, but also we'll hear what you've learned from the surveys.
Absolutely. I'll have a synthesis of that information and a draft for us to review as well.
All right. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item, policies for a second reading in the 600 series, fiscal management. Superintendent Wimmer?
I want to walk us through a few pieces. Mr. Pickler had connected kind of in the interim as he took a deeper dive into those policies, and I've got some feedback to kind of share for consideration of the board. So no changes in the removal. Again, that 610 nesting some sentences in policy 620 around some goals around financial management. The revision, we added 671.2 for revision, adding there's actually a removal of bullets, I think, and then adding numerals in that one, so that was a little bit of a shift. And then there was a slate of policies for no change. I'd like to just call our attention to policy 656, where there was consideration of broadening the legal options by adding that language in blue, so that in addition to legal action, that could include a third-party collection agency, and then some language of those. Mr. Pickler, I don't know if you wanted to add any pieces around kind of your observation or recommendations.
Well, I'll just say I'm not an attorney, but I like to pretend I am sometimes. So, you know, the way the policy had been written, it was just only listing going to small claims court, and I just feel like there are other less costly ways to try to, you know, collect those fees. So I just added those suggestions. Collection agencies are, you know, fairly cheap and typically charge a percentage of what they collect. And then just kind of leaving it open with other reasonable and lawful actions.
Yeah, and after review, we certainly agree with the recommendations, those changes. Again, you'll see those nested in blue. That is a shift, so I would also recommend, there's a couple here that have a shift. And sometimes if you have a shift, depending on how that is, what it changes, I would just recommend that we actually bring these back for a second reading. That we can kind of look at these in context, decide that we want to see that language again. After we reviewed it administratively, we too support that language, so we can bring that back for a second reading, if you will, on that one.
And if we bring it back next time, we could take action on it unanimously?
Correct. Yep,
if we
you
wanted
can.
to?
If you have unanimous, you can take action on a second reading, so you may see it that way. The other one was in 690. There was some cleanup of some references, but there was also adding language, deposit to district fund as directed by the school board. This came from conversation around, especially if we're looking at maybe some future sale of property, it was dictating that it goes into the general fund. In those pieces, so removing that language and making it more of a conversation and a direction by the board, because you may decide it goes into different funds. We'll want to mitigate how it impacts our aid, what the set-asides are for, those use. So again, same thing, we would agree with that language. Mr. Pickler, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else on that, but it just gave you the flexibility, and again, any funds would be directed by the board as well in that sale. So we thought it added that clarity and that future direction.
That would seem to make sense.
No other significant changes to any of the pieces from that first reading, just cleanup of a typo and then a couple references that still had district administrator instead of superintendent. Other than that, no significant changes to the slate of policies that you had seen prior.
So the recommended course of action would be, we'll bring this as a batch back for, we'll call it a second
A
reading.
second reading, if you will, which you can choose to take action on.
Mr. Pickler, thank you for your attention to detail on these. Those are good changes, I thought. Other questions, comments? All right, we'll plan on bringing them back on the next agenda then.
Great.
All right. Then we're on to policy 830, use of facilities. And I believe Mr. Harder.
So that,
is
yep,
gonna
so
come
that
forward.
next one, we'll actually tag team if you need Tim on this one. But that next policy you've seen prior, we've been working through, and we talked about cleaning up categories, shifting some of the financial things. I know Tim is working with kind of our regular, those who use our facilities, those pieces to kind of garner a little feedback. And we talk about implementation of the new pricing structures in January is what we would recommend to give groups enough time to plan for respond. So that's kind of some of the pieces that we have
The
thus far.
biggest question we're getting is where do I fit? It's almost too simplified sometimes compared to where we were. So we will be sending out a larger communication to those users of our system that would fit in what are the category 2 and 3 groups as we move forward, which are non-school district groups. And then we will collect any feedback that may come back and share that with the board prior to our next board meeting. So, thank you.
Excellent. So Are we considering this, is this the second reading, that it'll come back then for the third?
Yep,
That we would be able to take action at the next meeting?
Correct. You can take action at that next one, but we just wanted to make sure we're speaking to, didn't want you to act tonight without kind of walking through a couple pieces and give you some of that feedback that we've received.
Sure. And I think it's good that we're reaching out to and communicating with all the affected and interested groups. So thank you for that. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll see this for a third reading.
Guess
Mr.
I got a
Jenkins.
quick one, and it's probably because I'm asking for a selfish reason. What was the reason again for delaying the price changes till January?
Twofold. One is just I don't want to, if we were to approve this at our next board meeting, start this July 1. For the users of our systems, but just for us to flip over. Number two, January 1 is a very clean in our calendar. I have no groups that lapse over during that time because it is a true holiday. We have very little outside use of our facilities, so we can use that week of Christmas break to clean all of that up and then be ready to start on January 1. But the biggest feedback we got is thank you for starting to let us know about this now, because we will have groups that go from no fee to this fee or a different fee structure. We want to provide that opportunity out there. It was the cleanest break we had without waiting till June 30th of next year in the fiscal year.
And
which
our
is why.
fiscal year is different. Many of these organizations follow a typical calendar year for their fiscal years, so it helps them with their budgeting as well.
And I imagine it clarifies if somebody had approached you in advance to use it in September.
Yeah.
Not to say we're changing the rules of the game, but we are changing the rules of the game, so.
Yeah, and it says in there fees can be adjusted and all that by the board at any point in time, but we want to give that out there because I think there are some groups who may say, I may try to go somewhere else, or other groups that this will now open up to because space is available. So it fit with our time frame and calendar-wise, but also for those groups we serve.
It's a good question. Other questions, board members? Otherwise, we'll see this back on our next agenda.
You're correct. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we are going to receive a copy of an explanation of the 2025-2026 preliminary budget, and Mr. Lenny Hansen, our Assistant Superintendent, will present this. I mean, it's always eager to get this first one because just reminding, one of the first things I noticed when I started school board service was how the budget process works, because we will likely, and I'm sure Mr. Hansen will talk about this, will likely enter the school year, and the way it works in school districts is we will not have a finalized budget, and this is perfectly normal. So I'm assuming you're gonna talk about that.
Well, that's a perfect segue. So yes, we are talking about the budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year for the school district and any school district. That's July 1 to June 30th, right? So less than a month away is when this fiscal year begins. And as you said, across the entire state of Wisconsin, all of the 421 school districts find themselves in a little bit of an unusual timing situation. So we'll kind of go over that first and then kind of explain, what the purpose of this process is. In some ways, the preliminary budget can be a procedural item because it's truly in the fall when you're going to see the what we sometimes call the final budget, but what you really see as called the original budget. So all these terms somewhat overlap in funny ways. So let's talk about that. All right, so why a preliminary budget instead of a final budget? That was our segue. So a few key points here. The state drives the budgeting process for school districts in a number of ways. The state budget controls all of our revenues. The state determines the amount of aid districts receive. And the state determines the amount that is balanced between property taxes and aid to build that entire picture of your revenue limit. The state determines all of that. As much as we would love for you guys to be able to have that authority, you don't. So we are on hold waiting for the state government to make those determinations. Those determinations then do not come until later in the year after our spending year, our fiscal year has already begun. So the release of aid numbers always comes in monthly. They start releasing updated aid numbers. They keep getting updated July, August. August, you get a little bit firmer number, but it's really not until October that you get that final amount, right? On top of that, every other year, you have the additional variable, which is that a state budget, a 2-year biennial state budget, needs to be approved. And that is the year that we are in. So we have that caveat as well. So what does a budget calendar look like in a year like this, every other year? So you see in June, a preliminary budget being approved by a school board. That being said, the figures that you see in this preliminary budget are going to move based on what the state decides to do. And if you go back historically and look at our trends, they move quite a bit. The state budget can do any number of things in terms of on both the just total revenue that districts receive as well as the aid side of things. For July and August, is usually when the state budget gets approved. The last 3 state budgets have all been signed by the governor in early July. I am not sure that that is likely. It may be languishing on even longer, but we are just as much in the dark about that as the general public. That state budget determines the revenue limit that the school district operates under, so how much revenue the district has to work with. Then in August, we bring forward what you can call the final budget, but again is sometimes called the original budget. It's the more true budget that becomes actually adopted and published to the public as this is your school district's budget. You approve a tentative budget in August because that is then brought forward at the annual meeting of electors that we always hold in late September. From there, it comes back to this room where then the state releases its final aid numbers in October, and then I will come to you at that point, and in October, you will then approve the budget for the year. That is the normal cadence that it follows in every school district. It is odd, but it is not odd for Wisconsin. So, overview here of just what are some key variables factoring into as we develop the budget. So first of all, on the revenue side, always remember student membership is the key driver of our revenue limit. The state uses a 3-year average of our membership. Membership is not exactly the same as enrollment, but they often follow a similar trend. Membership involves sometimes prorating certain enrollment figures, summer school, part-time enrollments, and things like that. So it's similar to enrollment, but not the same. As you know, we've been on a gradual declining enrollment trend. That trend is assumed within our budgeting process, as we have pretty good projections always of where that's going to be. And then as you average that membership over a 3-year period, it also creates a nice smoothness as you go through either increases or decreases in enrollment. Special education reimbursement has been a hot topic for many months in the news. It's probably one of the hottest topics in the state budget negotiations. So the state had dropped under 30% that it was reimbursing Fund 27, which is actually much more than special education. It also includes reimbursement for nurses, counselors, school psychologists, speech pathologists. They're all in that category. So many, many, many years ago, the state was reimbursing that at 90%, but unfortunately has continued to fall in the percentage that it reimburses to the point that a few years ago it was in around 25%. The state had said in the biennial budget that is ending now that they had hoped to increase it from about 30 to 33%, but the amount of money that the state allocated in that pot was not enough, so the state failed to meet that commitment. We actually came in just a little bit above 31%. You might think 2% isn't a lot. That equates to more than $250,000 this year in the current fiscal year that the district had expected to receive that it won't receive. We've adapted for that reality, but those shortfalls in special education funding from the state certainly make an impact on every school district throughout Wisconsin. And then we've talked about various federal aids that have ended and how that impacts the budget moving forward, and that's been talked about many times at this podium. Some key expenditure variables that we're always watching, health insurance, all insurance products, but especially health insurance, as you know, has an inflationary trend that is well above normal CPI inflation and can create quite an increase from year to year in cost. We also feel the same pressures as anyone at home does in terms of supplies, purchase services, equipment. That inflation rate also is accounted for along with utilities. And then we also know that staffing adjustments and as hiring takes place and things like that, those are going to continue through the summer, which is another reason that these numbers will continue to move as we head towards that actual final budget in the fall. Some key budget assumptions or elements that we are keeping in mind as we develop the budget. So we use conservative revenue projections. There's certainly been a wide range of proposals put out there by legislative groups, the governor, the state superintendent. We tend to use pretty conservative projections so that we don't overshoot the mark. But hope is not a strategy, but there's nothing wrong with hoping anyways. But we are not going to depend on hope. We're going to use pretty much what you would expect from a typical year-to-year historical increase. We're going to look at expecting current special education reimbursement rates. That you've seen anything from 33% to the 60% proposed by the governor to 75% proposed by the state superintendent. We'll believe it when we see it, so we're going to stick with 33% at this point. We've talked about, and Mr. Sarno, my predecessor, talked about over time, planned operational reserves, contingency stored up from the past for any potential shortfalls in revenue given the uncertainty of the state budget that creates the opportunity for us to be prepared regardless of what comes out of the state budget, and that's accounted for. We account for staff attrition, which we have a pretty good picture of that amount at this point, but again, we'll continue to hire. There are a few vacant positions still. We'll continue to hire and get those final costs into the budget for the fall, but we have a pretty good idea of where general attrition is heading. We tend to use market trend for health and dental insurance. We work with our broker, Willis Towers Watson, who provides us the expected trend. They'll look at both kind of just regional trend for increase in price as well as our specific claims experience to come up with some numbers for that. And then we look at a variety of options for capital improvement budget allocation. So, we've often used, Fund 41, or you hear about Fund 46. Some of our capital improvement is in Fund 10. And there's more information about this within the actual budget proposal. But DPI has a number of rules about what you can purchase out of each of those funds. So we make sure that we leverage that flexibility as we develop a budget. So when you go to the actual budget document, I just have an example here because this will come back in 2 weeks to the next board meeting, so you'll have time to review that, ask questions, reach out, that sort of thing. But just to give you an idea, I tried to do something that didn't look totally dissimilar from what you've seen before, but also provide some additional context. So I picked kind of a pretty simple example. So each fund within the district has a different page in the budget. Each fund then has a little description of what it is so that you understand kind of how it can be used, what it's used for, and so forth. And then you see some historical data around the performance in that fund. So you've got your revenues on top, you've got your expenditures here, and then what the fund balance started at, what it goes to. So you'll see that described for each fund as you go through those, okay? So again, I'll be reaching out, looking for questions that you have so that we can make sure that you have all the information you need for when this comes back. Questions, discussion?
So thank you for the tour, and you've kind of set us up with a little bit of a key to take a look at the budget, and the preliminary budget was included. I'm assuming, so we'll see this then on the next agenda for review, and I'm guessing administration may take a look at it and possibly make a change or two between here and there. So we would see an updated version, whatever the most current information would be at that time. And again, this is a preliminary budget, which is really the start in that whole process that you had outlined. And so no doubt there will be changes going forward, even from this document, even if they're approved.
You're correct. I mean, the Joint Finance Committee is planning to talk about education for the first time, I think this Thursday, but we're still many weeks from budget. So we're not going to adjust our assumptions around revenue just yet. But yes, if we get additional information of, we hired this person or this or that, we'll update numbers live as we go.
Great. Board members, questions, comments? We appreciate the presentation. We look forward to additional discussion on a future agenda then.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I believe that concludes our discussion items. We move then on to future agenda items. And our first future agenda item is the board meeting calendar. And on our calendar, we have the following meetings scheduled, all to take place at the Education Service Center. June 23rd, regular board meeting at 5:30 PM. July 8th, curriculum committee meeting at 4:30 PM. And then a regular board meeting July 14 at 5:30 PM. And another regular board meeting July 28 at 5:30 PM. Again, all at the Education Service Center. And we encourage the public to look for the official notices in case the time or the place or the date may have changed. Any questions on the board calendar? Then hearing none, any items for follow-up and communication? All right, hearing none, we have reached the end of our planned agenda. So I would make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. We have a motion and second to adjourn. Any final discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Aragot? Yes. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
Dr. Temez?
Yes.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Swigert votes yes, and Mr. Pickler?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion, or that carried unanimously. We stand adjourned. Thank you to everyone for attending today in person or online, and we look forward to seeing you at a future meeting.